Hello, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. It is Friday, September 18th. I'm Stephanie Haney. This is where we bring you the top headlines from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Thank you for choosing to be here to get filled in on everything that's impacting you here in Northeast Ohio. I just want to say that today is the day we asked for. It's Victory Friday. Happy Victory Friday to you. We're going to be starting off first with our 3 News sports analyst, Ben Axelrod, talking about the Browns' win over the Bengals yesterday at the home opener, 35-30. And we brought it home. Very happy to be celebrating a Victory Friday with you. We're going to be bringing Ben Axelrod on in just a moment to be talking about what it was like to be inside the stadium, breaking down a little bit of the game, some of the surprises, what we can look forward to when we come up on the next game coming up very soon against the Washington football team. And we're going to bring Ben in right now. Hi, Ben. Happy Victory Friday to you.
Happy Victory Friday to you as well. It's great to be with you here.
It's great to have you here on 3 News Now. You were in the stadium for the home opener yesterday. I have to ask you, being in the stadium with just those 6,000 lucky fans, what was that like?
Being inside the stadium, that part was relatively normal. Obviously, it didn't feel like a traditional game day. But, being in the press box, they had partitions between all the media members. There was no buffet meal like there usually is. It was prepackaged, boxed lunches. From a fan standpoint, you obviously, it wasn't kind of that rocking atmosphere, but I think because it was a night game, there was a little bit more of that buzz. And, the fact that there even was noise, maybe it didn't sound like, a traditional Browns home game, but it did sound more like a high school game. Like there were reactions to plays. You would hear cheers after catches or touchdowns. You would hear boos after calls that didn't go the Browns' way. But what stood out to me that there was, probably the biggest difference was outside the stadium. No tailgating, really just no traffic into downtown, at least not when I was getting into the stadium. You're so used to, lines going in and out of the city on a game day. No real traffic, no tailgating in any of the lots. Just kind of this like empty, eerie buzz outside the stadium before the game and even after the game. So to me, inside the stadium, it was as normal can be, I guess, in 2020. But outside the stadium definitely felt like it was coming from a different world.
You know what? I would say that's exactly the experience that I had too. I was walking around downtown a little bit before the game, and it was very kind of eerie. There were some people, because they did let about 6,000 people or so they said, into the stadium. Very strange on a game day to see just like a trickle of fans into the stadium. I did see one sign downtown in the pit that said that they were allowing tailgating, but I didn't really see anybody tailgating down here. I think the city did a really effective job of kind of letting people know we're not really into that right now.
Yeah, and that's, just outside WKYC Studios is the Muni Lot. And that is a time-honored tradition, the Muni Lot, and just driving past it. And that place is usually bumping, and it starts, even for a Thursday game, starts at 10 or 11 in the morning. Just driving in a couple of hours before kickoff and then driving past it totally empty. So, you might have had a few scragglers here or there, but out just a totally different, kind of ghost town-like atmosphere compared to what we're used to for a Cleveland Browns home game.
Definitely a different reality that we're living in right now. Very glad that football is happening, though. Very glad that we won yesterday. So let's dive into talking about the game. After that opening drive from the Bengals, I will say, I was a little nervous, but there weren't a lot of moments in yesterday's game after that, though, when I was scared. It seemed like the Browns answered back very quickly when we got the ball back. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the Browns win 35-30, and that's probably a closer score than, is really indicative of how the game went. I thought the Browns, really controlled that game, especially on the offensive side of the ball. They were really scoring at will against the Bengals. The Bengals are not a very good defensive team, but, like you said, after the opener against the Ravens on Sunday, you'll take what you can get, and to move the ball and to even be able to see the Browns put together consistent drives to get into the end zone on a consistent basis. Just a really encouraging sign for this offense. And I think something that this offense needed from a confidence standpoint. Defensively, there's still a lot of question marks. And that's what really let the Bengals back into the game. But like I said, the Browns were up 2 scores for most of the game. So even that last touchdown that they gave up to Joe Burrow, they were kind of playing more of a prevent style where maybe they weren't being as aggressive as they would normally be in a closer game. But a lot of injuries on that defense, a lot of question marks just about the overall talent level. So all things considered, though, I think the story of this game was Baker Mayfield and the Cleveland Browns offense coming out really, I think, the first real showcase for Kevin Stefanski, the new head coach, really showing what this Cleveland Browns offense is capable of when it's hitting on all cylinders.
And it seemed like there weren't a lot of question marks. I know after the game against the Ravens, a lot of people were questioning that fake punt attempt that Stefanski called for. Yesterday, he made the comment, though, they were down. They were very close to scoring. They decided to go for it on the 4th down instead of kicking a field goal. And then Stefanski made that comment, 7s over 3s. What do you think about that call?
Yeah, so I actually have a story about that going up on WKYC.com right now. And it was early in the 3rd quarter. The Browns were up by 8. So if you kick the field goal there, you go up by 11. That's a 2-score game. Instead, they go for it. They miss it. The Bengals get the ball back at their own 1-yard line. And 5 plays later, though, Myles Garrett gets a strip sack of Joe Burrow. The Browns take the ball back over, score. So it ultimately works out. But there were a lot of people second-guessing Kevin Stefanski going for it at that point in the game. And his comment was, we think 7s, meaning touchdowns, are a huge deal over 3s, field goals. And, that's something we've seen with the Browns, it seems like, throughout their history, or at least since coming back in 1999, is, they'll put together an offensive drive and then they'll stall out and settle for a field goal, and the field goal comes back to bite them. Well, now they're going for touchdowns. Now they're taking, kind of this uber aggressive approach. It definitely lends itself to some questioning from people who think they should play it more conservatively. But I think when you look at where the NFL is headed in terms of offense and scoring, I think, to me, I favor Kevin Stefanski's offensive approach, even if it does come back to bite you a few times where you don't get in. It's more of a calculated approach where, even if you don't get it, you're giving the Bengals the ball back against the wall against their own 1-yard line. And we saw how that worked out for the Browns.
Sure. And, I'm going to bring out a poker analogy that I really like. Scared money don't make money. And I know you follow the sports betting, so maybe you can appreciate that. You've got to be willing to take some risks for sure. Maybe the game against the Bengals is a place to feel comfortable taking those risks when we know that their defense isn't necessarily the best defense in the NFL. I will also say it was good to see Baker Mayfield moving around. We saw Joe Burrow run for some first downs. Then we saw Baker Mayfield run for a first down. That was nice to see.
Yeah, going back to your poker analogy, I'm a fan of the phrase "no risk it, no biscuit." So I think that applies to Kevin Stefanski's offensive approach. If it was easy and if it was the slam dunk call, everybody would be doing it. So I think that was the right call. But yeah, we saw Baker Mayfield. He had some nice runs, especially on that first drive. He ran for a first down in the red zone. But even just getting him on the move with play action and rollouts, that's more of what we're expecting to see from this Kevin Stefanski offense. And I think why so many people were kind of befuddled by how that Ravens game went, because it looked so much like the Cleveland Browns offense from a year ago and not, this Cleveland Browns offense we were expecting to see with Kevin Stefanski. So, to get Baker Mayfield out on the move and running and throwing on the run, I think that's where he's shown he's at his best. And I think that's what Kevin Stefanski's playbook, I think that's where it really suits him.
And speaking of just the quarterbacks that were on the field yesterday, lots of people very excited about potential future matchups between Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow. We could potentially see some great games here in the future. A lot of people, even LeBron James, tweeting, Joe Burrow is really something special. I think we have some good Browns-Bengals matchups coming in our future.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. They're going to play twice a year, obviously, both being in the AFC North. so many similarities between Joe Burrow and Baker Mayfield, both hugely successful college quarterbacks, both won the Heisman Trophy, both were picked first overall and picked first overall by teams in Ohio. And then you throw Lamar Jackson with the Ravens into the mix, another former Heisman Trophy winner. There's going to be a lot of fun quarterback matchups. But yeah, Joe Burrow has those Ohio ties. He grew up a Browns fan, I believe. So yeah, it's going to be really fun to see these two play each other twice a year. I saw a lot of people commenting about that on Twitter. It's a little before my time, but I'm a student of the game, and I know that Bernie Kosar and Boomer Esiason had a lot of great matchups between the Browns and the Bengals. And if all goes well for both quarterbacks and for both teams, we could be seeing, a decade's worth of Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow matchups twice a year in Ohio, which would be cool.
I'm a fan of good matchups wherever they come. I like seeing the Browns perform well. Obviously, one more thing I have to ask you about. Are we surprised that we didn't get to see Austin Seibert kick any attempts in the game yesterday?
Yeah, that was a little curious. So the Bengals' need for a kicker came when their kicker, Randy Bullock, he pulled a calf muscle, missing what would have been a game-tying kick last Sunday against the Chargers. And, that's what led to the Bengals claiming Seibert. But ultimately, Bullock was good to go, so they stuck with Bullock. So I don't know how severe that injury was, and if signing Seibert must have just been a precaution. But, yeah, that was certainly a storyline coming into the game, but ultimately not one that bared out in any meaningful way on Thursday night.
Well, there was one more big surprise yesterday, too. The orange pants. Were you as surprised as I was to see the orange pants? That was a real shock.
So I knew they had something up their sleeves, because when the Browns first unveiled their jerseys back in April, that was one of the big comments was, where are the orange pants, especially the orange pants with the brown tops. That's been a favorite look for Browns fans dating back to the Cardiac Kids of the 1980s. So when the Browns got that criticism, they kind of played it coy, and, owner J.W. Johnson, he said, oh, did we miss that? We must have forgotten that, and kind of played it sarcastically. So I knew at some point they were going to be breaking them out. I didn't know it would be this soon, the first home game of the season. I thought they might even go with the color rush jerseys yesterday, because that's something they typically wear in prime time. But ultimately, they didn't waste any time. And I have a feeling after last night, the orange pants are going to become a major staple of the Browns uniform set moving forward.
Definitely something to see yesterday. Loved seeing them in the orange pants. Loved seeing them win 35-30 over the Bengals. Absolutely. Ben, we look forward to the story you have coming up on Stefanski's comments. I cannot say Stefanski today. On Stefanski's comments on those 7s over 3s. Can't wait to read that. We've got your whole play-by-play breakdown of all the scoring moments and all the big moments on WKYC.com and our app as well. Ben, thanks for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
That was our 3 News sports analyst, Ben Axelrod, breaking down the win yesterday on this Victory Friday between the Browns and the Bengals. The Battle of Ohio goes to the Browns this time. We'll see the Bengals next again in October. Now the Browns have a little bit of time off. We'll see them next playing the Washington football team. Not this Sunday, of course, but the following Sunday. Now let's take a look at our own Jay Crawford. He's our newest columnist for 3 News on the WKYC.com website and the WKYC app. So he has broken down the game as well. He says that the Browns found a winning formula, but there is still work to be done. And so the question is, are the Browns going to be, are the Browns going to be closer to the team that we saw last night against the Bengals, or closer to the team that really got worked over on Sunday in Baltimore? So Jay Crawford says the obvious answer is somewhere in the middle, and in the next few weeks, we'll really get to see what the team will look like moving forward. But there was definitely offensive progress there for sure. But Jay did point this out. He said the Browns offense punted just one time. There was just one turnover, and they scored 5 touchdowns, but they still needed to recover an onside kick at the end to secure that 35-30 victory against what is maybe not the best football team in the league. So Jay says there's still work to be done by the defense to not allow so many points. By the way, the Browns defense has allowed 68 points in the first 2 games. That sounds a lot more like a basketball game necessarily than a couple of football games. So right now, Jay does point out the defense is missing critical pieces due to injury, but for the Browns to end this season with more wins than losses. Jay says that the defense will need to show the kind of progress that the offense showed from the Ravens game to the Bengals game. You're definitely going to want to read that full analysis from Jay. That's on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Now let's turn to something that happened in Bay Village yesterday that a lot of you were wondering about in Huntington Beach. The Honey Hut, or the Hut, as residents call it, it came crashing down yesterday. It got torn down. It's attached to that lighthouse there in the area. Well, the Hut was already closed for the season, so no one's missing out on anything there. So as you can probably guess, there are renovations happening, and that facility is owned by the Cleveland Metro Park. So Jacqueline Gerling told 3 News that the park there is undergoing some big-time renovations. There will be new bathrooms, new changing rooms, and a re-envisioned concessions and picnic area. And this sounds pretty great. So the Metro Parks owns the Hut. They lease it out to vendors throughout the years, including Mitchell's Homemade Ice Cream. They've sold their ice cream out of there before. Well, now it's going to be about a 1,500 square foot concession stand, and there will be more options for snacks and things going in there. They will also be putting in place a 4,000 square foot picnic area overlooking the shoreline with a fire pit. Doesn't that sound lovely? I think that sounds absolutely wonderful. So these upgrades are part of a multi-year master plan for the Huntington Beach Park, and they began in 2018. They're more underway now, so you can see mock-ups of what that will look like when it comes to completion. That's on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Now, for those of you who are into the digital world, if you're a TikTok lover, listen to this. Or if maybe you're thinking about getting into TikTok, starting Sunday, you might not be able to download TikTok because these first limitations will be put in place based on an order that was signed by President Donald Trump back in August. So let me give you the background here. TikTok is owned by ByteDance, which is a China company. And TikTok, as many apps do, collects user data and moderates user posts. It grabs your location, it takes a look at your messages, it tracks what you're watching to figure out how best to target ads to its users. TikTok isn't the only app doing this. Facebook and Twitter also do this, but because the app is owned by a Chinese company, there are concerns there because the way the Chinese government works with companies is they can demand cooperation from companies within their country. Now, there isn't any specific evidence that TikTok has made any U.S. user data available to the Chinese government, but that's what's being talked about here. That's what President Donald Trump and his administration has said they are concerned about, even though TikTok says it doesn't store any U.S. user data in China and that it would never give user data to the government, and also doesn't censor videos, which is dictated by China. Even so, this order would call for TikTok to no longer be able to be downloaded starting on Sunday. And if these limitations move forward, even more limitations will go into effect on November 12th. Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross did say early on Friday on Fox Business Network that access to the app could continue to be possible if certain safeguards are put in place. There's a lot of people impacted by this already. TikTok has 100 million U.S. users according to the company, and 700 million global users. So that's how many people are already using it. So it won't be able to amass any more users if people can't download it starting on Sunday. Now, it is still possible that that could be pulled back and the download ban might not go into effect on Sunday, but as of now, that's what's going to happen. So TikTok said they are very disappointed over this move, and they would continue to challenge what they called President Trump's unjust executive order. This is all in the backdrop of a deal that was recently reached between the California tech company Oracle to buy TikTok from ByteDance, at least the U.S. operations of TikTok. So we'll be seeing what happens. Take a look at your app store on Sunday and see if TikTok is in there. Now, here's a big story we're going to end things on. If this happens, this would be definitely a positive note for a lot of people with student loans. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, the Democrat who represents New York, says that he plans to put in place something that would cancel student loans for a lot of people and a lot of money. This is a resolution, of course, it's just a resolution at this point, but Schumer says he wants to cancel up to $50,000 in student loan debt per student. He said he would put a plan in place that would give complete forgiveness of student loans for more than 3/4 of borrowers across the country, and at least some debt forgiveness for 95% of people with student loan debt. And again, reiterate, up to $50,000 per student that Schumer would like to see completely forgiven. Schumer says whoever wins in November, that president should use existing executive authority under the Higher Education Act to minimize student loan debt for students in New York, which is the state that he represents, and across the country. Here's what Schumer said. Millions of young New Yorkers and their families have been crushed by student loan debt, greatly impeding their ability to begin careers and build the financial resources needed to build their futures. That's definitely the situation for a lot of people with student loans. Schumer said that the student loan crisis will be one of the first legislative issues that he'll prioritize in January 2021 when the new Congress comes in. This will be the 117th Congress after the election on November 3rd. And Schumer, just so you know, he's not up for election until 2022. So he was elected in 2016, 6-year term as a U.S. Senator. He won't be up for re-election again until 2022. We don't even know at this point if he's running again. But the point is, he will be there in January. So he says he's making this a priority. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. I know a lot of people very interested in student loan forgiveness, myself included, to be completely honest. All right, now here we are 46 days to the election and only 17 days away from the voter registration deadline here in Ohio. That deadline here in Ohio is October 5th. If you have an Ohio driver's license and your social security number, you can register to vote online. I tweeted that link out today if you want to check that out. That's _ Stephanie Haney. Again, just 17 days left to register to vote in the state of Ohio, and then only 46 days between now and the November 3rd election. That's it for your 3 News Now early update. I'll be back here at 3 p.m. with those updated numbers from the Ohio Department of Health on the COVID-19 situation here in Ohio and everything else that's topping our headlines on WKYC.com and our WKYC app. Happy Victory Friday, everybody. I'll see you back here in just a little bit. I'm Stephanie Haney.